Hey, welcome to another very exciting episode of the Real Deal podcast. I'm your host, as always, Courtney Harden. Very excited to have my next guest. But before we get to there, let's go. All right, welcome to another very exciting episode of the Real Deal podcast. I'm your host, as always, Courtney Harden. Glad to be back with a new episode, new week. February 25th. It's almost towards the end of February. Can't believe it. It's been this month's gone so fast here, but we're almost in March Madness. A lot of different things happening in the sports world. But I have a great guest coming up here. But you can find this episode tuning in on YouTube, on all the podcast platforms, whether it's Spreaker, Spotify, Apple. We're on the Roku channel, as well, BS3 Network, BS3TVLive.com. You can follow me at Get the Real Deal on all social media platforms. And also Courtney Harden on all social media as well, whether it's Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. I'm there as well. So I am not going to keep my guest much longer. Going to bring him in now. This is Ahaan Rungta. Did I say that right?
Yep. I mean, you got my first name right, which is the hardest part, so I appreciate that.
Yeah, okay. All right. Well, I was practicing, so glad to get you on, man. He's a contributor for Parlay Science, also content creator, sports betting analyst. We're going to get into a little bit of everything. I called this one the numbers game, so we're going to talk a little bit about Parlay Science and everything, too. So, Han, thanks for coming on. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on. I think we met for the first time at the Fantasy Football Expo a few years ago.
Yes, we did. Yes.
Had a good time there, and it's been a few years. This is long overdue.
Yeah, very much so. Very much long overdue. And like I said, we had a good time at the Expo, the Fantasy Football Expo, a couple of years ago. I didn't go last year. Did you go last year too, or?
I did not. I think we went the same year.
Yeah, we went the same year. Yep. So yeah, 2 years ago we went 2 years ago. It was my first time going there, and I had a good time. I had a really good time, and gonna try to go again. I don't know about this year or not either. Got some other plans. It's funny because it's in August, and my anniversary is in August too. So it's hard to kind of navigate that. But I got some plans for my anniversary. So maybe in the next year or so try to go. Are you gonna try to go this year too, or?
We'll see. I mean, I was telling you this before the show, but I tore my rotator cuff a couple of days ago, and now for the next couple of weeks, I'll be spending my my afternoon sitting at home in the lab more often. So you can never predict what's going to happen the next week, let alone August. So hopefully we'll see each other in person real soon. But who knows at this point?
Yeah. Like I said, it was good to meet you. We followed each other from there. And we were both putting out content on a lot of different sports and things like that, fantasy football and a lot of different things. So again, I thank you for your time, and hopefully speedy recovery for you too on that torn rotator cuff as well. We try to still we play sports and things happen. Injuries happen. It's just what. Sometimes it happens. Like you said, just want to make sure you recover healthy and fully. So, but let's start from here. I always ask my guests, especially first time. I'm going to ask, who is Ahaan Rungta? Who is he? And how did you get started into sports, betting, fantasy football? We'll go from there. Tell your story.
Yeah, I mean, so I graduated from Massachusetts Institute of Technology back in 2020, January of 2020, which is a very interesting time to graduate, given what happened a couple of months afterwards. So I graduated with a degree in math. The episode title is appropriate. I'm a math guy. That's in my blood. That's what I do. That's where my background is. Always liked sports. Did sports writing as a hobby for a while. But back in the day, sports betting wasn't legal in Massachusetts. Just had to play fantasy sports. So really just my love for fantasy sports kind of started the whole process of wanting to work in sports in some capacity. After I graduated, during and a little after the pandemic, worked locally for the MIT Office of Open Learning, which is an online education pretty much, and used my math degree for some data science stuff there. But throughout the time, like as sports betting started becoming more and more abundant in the country, and eventually became legal in Massachusetts, started going heavy on the sports betting stuff. Loved betting on the NBA. That was a big deal for me. Early on in the pandemic, and then picked up later on NFL, MLB. Now I bet the WNBA as well. A couple other stuff, a couple other things. But yeah, it's just kind of slowly developed from there. And I realized throughout my work with the MIT Office of Open Learning, doing data science stuff there, that I want to use those data science skills, make models and stuff, but want to do it in the sports realm, right? So I think a lot of us discover, our passion for sports and how it can meet with a real job. I think we all discover that like what our sweet spot is at some point in life. I guess during the pandemic, I just figured out that sports betting was the way to go, since I was starting to get good at it at the time. So here we are. I work with Parlay Science, which is where you can find like all my bets. The people over at Parlay Science, great people. It's a sports betting Discord, but I'm one of the contributors. They're part of a team that works there. So I'm one of the faces at Parlay Science.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that's good. And like I said, if anybody has any comments or questions, you can definitely in the chat here. We have the on YouTube and Facebook. Nathan Ramachandra says, everyone keep up the great work. Thanks for tuning in. And from the Nathan Sports Rush, he said, this is awesome. Yeah, thank you, man. Appreciate it. And so like you said, you definitely into numbers, and that's what it's about, sports betting and how it has exploded just over the years, and it's become legal in most states, not on all yet, and it's getting there. But talk about that, sports betting over the last, well, we even start from 2020 into what it is today. How have you seen the landscape of sports betting evolved just over the last 5 years?
Yeah, I mean, there's goods and bads to everything in life, and as things, spread, across the country, globally too, there's goods and bads that come with the territory of sports betting. I think one of my least favorite things about betting NBA, since we're in the NBA betting season right now, is you have the isolated incidents of the Jonte Porters of the world who bet against themselves. You have the Terry Rozier investigation, where he's being investigated for betting his unders, back in 2023. I'm a Miami Heat fan, so if we didn't already, we didn't need more drama with the season. We
yeah.
On top of that, we have this Terry Rozier nonsense going on, and perhaps the thing I dislike the most about like how much sports betting is growing is that people will use these isolated incidents, and we know that gambling can be addictive, can be something that people feel like they're an expert in when they're not, and lose a lot of money, and it brings out the worst in a lot of people for sure.
Yes, yeah.
But people using these isolated incidents to like, they make bad bets, and then they go say the game is rigged, or like the player bet against themselves. That's the only reason my bet lost. When in reality, they're just, we call them squares, and you know who you are. If you're a square, you click, you open two apps, you click some buttons, and then you cry about why your bet lost. So I don't really like the negative stuff that comes from when people lose bets. I mean, sports books are going to stay profitable for a long time because of these kinds of people. But at the same time, like that's where I feel like, I come in with like, everyone has a different approach to betting, and people in Parlay Science, like a bunch of us, are really profitable, but we have different processes, right? And I'm the only one in our team that comes from a heavy math background, and using, actual models to develop NFL projections, like I did for the entirety of the season, and NBA projections as well. But also having the mind of like, we're not just going to blindly, my models don't do all my work for me, if that makes sense, right? Like, I watch games, I know how schemes work for different teams, how teams adjust, stuff like that. So when people view me as like the analytics nerd, it's like not all of what I do is purely just like you plug in numbers and don't watch games. But at the same time, like I'm using my skill set to inform myself on how to make better bets, right? So because like all of us just at Parlay Science itself has, we have such different processes to how we bet. It's cool to see like the different angles we come in for the same game. Sometimes we disagree on the same game, right? And right, like we have a Mavs Lakers game tonight, and just in this game of the night, pretty much everybody's going to bet it. But I find particular edges where people aren't looking most of the time. Like my bet for this game is Dante Exum over 7.5 points. Like who the hell is betting on Dante Exum? Well, I am. That's who. Right. So it's like I feel like betting on the NBA has been a very fun endeavor for me, just because I find these value spots which the casual fan is not going to see, and maybe even the purely analytics people are not going to see. But I like these different angles, so I like what I personally can do with sports betting. And my account, if you ever see my Twitter, I tweet a lot, so please don't follow me if you don't want my your Twitter to be flooded. Right. But if you see my Twitter, like a lot of it is just like discussing stats and sort of like educating myself and whoever follows me on like how we can use those stats to inform our sports betting. Because a lot of people, they either just post their plays, no explanation, or they post their explanations and it's kind of like it's a completely different approach from mine, and they're super successful. And I love to follow a lot of these people. A lot of my great friends in the industry are people who have a completely different process from me, but I like to learn from them as well. So I'm kind of bringing in the skill set of using line reading processes, using analytical systems to bet on sports and player props and whatnot. So I love what I can bring to the sports betting community, and it's a lofty goal. But one day, I hope many people will be able to understand analytics at a higher level than people do right now, even if they don't have any background in analytics, right? Like that's the thing. Analytics is sometimes viewed as a villain, but it's like if you just understand the basic things, that'll help you appreciate how we can get better at betting sports, how we can get better at understanding the games, or how you can even get better at like understanding your own team. Like if you're a Lakers fan, they're so analytics driven this year, and look at the success they're having. So stuff like that. Like it's a lofty goal, but if I were to leave a footprint on this community, the sports community is like you can look at things analytically without having a deep, quote unquote, nerdy background.
Yeah, right. And I agree with what you said about some of the good and some of the bad. And like I said, the bad of just stick with sports betting is, you said, the people that will follow you and follow you, follow your analytics and the math that you put behind it, the work you put behind it, and then they blame you for, okay, you might have made a bad, not even a bad call, just made a call that just you thought it fit the model, it fit what you believed in, the hard work, and it didn't hit. I mean, you're not going to win every time. And I think people go into it when they bet, even for the veterans that bet before, the long time bettors, or even the ones that just say, I'm gonna put $5 on this, and they lose that and they're going to hit big. They gotta, it takes work. It takes some time. It takes, some luck in a way too. It takes a lot of that, but you're just putting out what's the best material, what you researched and put out there. And now you have, you said you have these people, you have some people that they get upset and they start to come at you as like, oh, you're not this, you're, what are you doing? You don't know what you're talking about and everything too. It's like, come on, man. It's like, you're the one that's doing a bet. They just know that you could win and you could lose. I mean, it's one or the other. You're going to win something or you're going to lose. And if you lose, just, if you want to continue, you continue. If not, and don't bet the house, don't bet everything that you got, don't blame. That's only on yourself. If you put the money out and you lose it, that's on you. And I think I agree with you. I think that's where betting in itself kind of gets there's some blurred lines there, and people don't want to admit that they made the mistake, or that it's their fault if they, you lose, you win some, you lose some. That's the name of the game.
Yeah, and I think you bring up a good point with the like if a couple of your bets lose, then you're the bad guy. But
Yeah.
also like every bettor has every bettor has bad days. Every bettor has
Yes.
bad weeks. I had a
Yes.
2-week slump in
Oh
January,
my goodness. Yeah.
and where I was like hitting at a 30% rate. But here's the thing: like at the end of the season, because I'm good at what I do, and because I am not emotional over the previous what
Right.
happened the
Right.
previous day. That's the analytical mind taking the emotion out of it.
Yep.
Is I'm going to be up at the end of the season, and we track that with return on investment, and the return on investment is going to be decent enough for me where I'm going to be up at the end of the year, at the end of the fiscal year, right? When I pay my taxes, I'm going to be able to put positive numbers for the extra stuff, right? So
Yeah.
you bring up a good point about the emotional stuff, and it's like whenever I see on TNT, right, Chuck gives out these
Yes.
parlays for FanDuel, and it's like the promoted. The fact that people actually tail that is so cringe to me, because we all know Chuck didn't put any thought into that parlay. He's probably not even making that parlay. They just
No.
made a graphic, and
Mhm.
he's just like reading it out. And people will tail that and then be frustrated that why did my 4-leg parlay not win? And that just so cringe to me. Yeah, I work for Parlay Science, but at the end of the day, you got to know how to distribute your parlays with your straight bets, stuff like that. And at the end of the day, if you lose, 10 straight days in a row, and you're tailing me, like just know that eventually we're going to have 12 straight positive days, and that's going to well make up for it, right? And that's the difference between a degenerate and someone who's doing this for a living, so to speak.
Yes, yeah, and that's a good point. That's the thing. It just, you're gonna get in slumps if you're into this sports betting or anything like that. You're gonna be in slump. I was in a slump for months, and I played a DraftKings, and I played basketball in the NFL, and I do some golf, and it gets, I do it for fun, and if I hit, I go through throughout the week, do my research and listening to podcast, or looking at data and all these things, and then I put my picks in, and I just put my lineup in, see if it goes. I say, okay, this is my best lineup. I feel like it's going to hit. One or two plays and it doesn't hit, and I was in a slump for a couple months. It's Super Bowl on for a while. So I think at the Masters last year, then I did pretty well. Then I got on a nice little streak, won a little bit of money, and was just putting that money back in, and then he got back on another slump. It's just, like I said, I don't take it personal, because even now I've been on a bad streak with March Madness, and I used to do really good with March Madness. And my wife always says, I'm probably overanalyzing. Guys like us, that's what we do. Yep. We overanalyze. I'm sure when March Madness comes, you're going to probably have a lot of different angles and things like that. And I love that. I love that stuff. And maybe I do. Maybe I'll have sheets of papers and websites and things like that. I don't run models, but I listen to a lot of different people, and then I come up with my own. Then I have my own analytical way of doing it, and then I make my picks. And everything. Some are with the heart, some with the head. It just depends. And but I haven't done well in March Madness over the last probably 2-3 years. And then I might get upset, like, oh, I'm not gonna play this year. But then I say, yeah, I'm playing again, because I get hooked, So, but how do you, like I said, you differentiate that? But I was gonna ask you about the analytical side of that. When something does come up like March Madness, the NBA, you start like right in the, like you look at lines right in the morning, or how's your day to day? That would be my question. How's your day to day when it comes to, and it's all different. Football is different from in NFL, different from NBA. WNBA is different from hockey. But how's your day to day look? Do you look at the night before? Do you throughout the day, the lines move and all that? But how's your day to day when it comes to the analytical side?
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say like the fact that you can say that I used to be very good at betting March Madness, like hats off to you, because I don't think I'm going to get to the point where I can make that statement confidently and say March Madness is the definition of crapshoot.
It is crapshoot, yes.
I mean, it's
Yes.
one game elimination between school kids. Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah,
But the
right,
fact
right.
that you can even say that I was red hot betting March Madness for a few years, like
Yeah.
that's commendable.
I
to
mean,
your
I was
process.
winning some work pools. It wasn't like a
Yeah,
large. I was not a good. Not if I'm on ESPN or something. I wasn't
yeah.
winning anything that. But work pools with 50 or 100 people, I would get top 2, top 3, win some money back. But
Yeah.
not the last 2-3 years. It's been really a struggle. But yeah, how's your day to day?
Yeah, and like
Yeah.
I mean, similarly, you know, for me for the Super Bowl, I bet on 5 Super Bowls in a row now, and this year's Super Bowl, the Eagles Chiefs Super Bowl, was the first Super Bowl where I lost money, right? And it's like next year people are going to be like, well, last year you lost money. I'm fading everything. We'll see how that goes, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, at the end of the day, like I try not to bet too much on sports where I don't have a day-to-day process. So if you're in the Parlay Signs Discord, you know that I placed some hockey bets this season, but part of it was just because were like some extreme systems. I keep an eye on like the systems with some other sports and stuff. I keep an eye on systems that are extremely profitable when you can sort of line read and stuff, and that takes a lot of experience with just like looking at lines and then like knowing how historical systems work, how books set lines, knowing how the public will react to lines, stuff like that. So I have placed a few hockey bets this season, but since I don't bet hockey day to day, those wagers are much lighter than my other sports. What I primarily bet is NBA, MLB, NFL, and WNBA. And so those are my big 4 of what I bet. Yeah, as a side note, I did bet on the Daytona 500 last year. I did not bet on it this year. William Byron won it last year, and I bet William Byron outright to win it as one of my few wagers. One big on that. Did not bet anything this year, and William Byron won again, so that's pretty funny. But but of the big 4 sports that I do cover, it's a completely different but day-to-day process for everything, right? And it's the only way you can be confident that in the long run I'm going to win money is if you have a process and you can not just have a process, but also have the humility to know when your process needs adjustments, right? So the flip side of I won't panic over a 2-week slump is you need to know when your methods are just not working out or you're getting bad reads, so to speak, right? So like for example, in the NBA, if you bet on a guy to hit over 1.5 threes and they go 1 for 9, right? Your bet did not hit, but they had 9 wide open shots. Like that's a good read. But if you bet someone's, over 4.5 assists and they had 5 assists on 6 potential, you got lucky there because they only had 6 potential assists, and that's not a sustainable conversion rate to convert 5 of your 6 potential assists. And even though you got lucky and you won the bet, that doesn't necessarily mean your read was good. So you have to have the humility to mark down which ones of your reads are working, which markets you're getting good reads on. So if you're in the NBA, like one of my favorite markets of all time betting NBA is the 3-point market. So I generally get pretty good reads on those. And like even when I lose, like if I bet over 1.5 threes, like my guy will sometimes go 1 for 9. And then I know like, yeah, that was a good read. Like he got exactly the shots that I was hoping for, but it was just bad variance. And that's going to make itself up later. 2 weeks down the line, I'm going to bet someone over 1.5 threes and they're going to go 2 for 3. And bad luck will make up with some good luck down the stretch. But at the same time, you got to know, okay, if I'm consistently getting bad reads on the first quarter points market, for example, maybe I'm just not capping this correctly, right? So you have to have the humility to learn why, you're reading the market differently every year. And with MLB, something that I've struggled with is finding, my niche early in the season, because 2 years ago, I was absolutely dominant in the money line market. And last year, I was absolutely dominant in the home run market, right? And what I got to do a better job to have even bigger seasons is this year, I got to learn within the first few weeks, I got to do a better job at finding out what are my models succeeding at and what are they failing at, right? And that's where it comes with the day-to-day stuff. The sooner you can figure out what you should panic about and what you shouldn't, the more successful you'll be over the course of a long season, right? Especially because baseball's definition of feels like a long season, because there's hundreds of games for each team, as well as the fact that it's over the summer and there's no NBA or NFL to watch for most of it, right? So it's going to feel like a drag, but if you keep working hard and figuring out where your process is succeeding and where it's not, you'll know what to stay away from and what to keep betting on, right? So one of my regrets from last season is not figuring out soon enough that I was red hot on home runs. So I should have put more exposure on home runs much earlier, which I did in the back half of the season, which helped me, but I should have done it much earlier. So this season, it might not be the home run market. It might be something else where my models are just picking up. And the reason your markets, your best markets can change each year is because the way the sportsbook set lines can change year to year. I know for a fact that some certain books lost some money in the first couple of months of the season betting MLB because the public was absolutely eating on money lines and spreads in the first couple of months of MLB last season. That is positively correlated with the fact that I was struggling on money lines and spreads in the first couple of months of the season because my process is usually very much against the grain. So I should have picked up on that sooner. I should have picked up on the fact that the books were not pricing, money lines very sharply last year, and they were okay with that because they were making it back on all the props. So I should have picked up on that sooner. So that's on me. So humility and day to day adjusting your process where it needs to be adjusted without emotion is the key to succeeding within a season.
I like that. I do like that. Yeah, don't put too much emotion into it when you're betting because it could be disappointments. I mean, that's gonna just be a huge disappointment when if that happens. Like I'm an Eagles fan, so if I would put my emotion, yes, they won the Super Bowl. But if I put some emotion into that of some of the bets, it might have went well. Sometimes it might not have went so well. So yeah, you got to take the emotions out of it when you're betting. I think that was great. That's great advice in itself, just in general. So yeah, just got one more. Then before I let you go, I wanted to ask you about the future of what you think is going to go with the sports betting. As you said, there's so much, there's so many different avenues and variables, and you said there's the data driven, there's numbers, and if someone wanted to get into sports betting, you did kind of give some advice on that, but what do you think the future holds for sports betting, and what else you have coming up? I know you said WNBA season's getting ready to start in a couple of months, so that's big, and I know for a lot of people that I've talked with, they just getting into the WNBA. There's a lot of new fans from that angle, so they're just getting into it. But if they want to get into that, what else you got up coming up? Baseball season, that's this spring training just starting up as well. You got NBA playoffs coming up and NHL if you're hockey. But what else you got coming up? And if someone wanted to getting or the future of sports betting.
Yeah, I mean, sports betting, whether or not you like, the bads of it, the goods of it, sports betting is going to continue to grow. I mean, they're just the world runs around money, and sports betting is going to get leagues more money. Sports betting is going to get athletes more money. It can hurt some athletes' mental health for sure, and which is why I as often as I can continue to remind people: if you lose a bet and you tag the athlete that lost you your bet, you're a corny motherfucker. I don't know if I'm allowed to curse, but I did it anyway.
No, it's fine.
So don't be tagging the athletes. But sports betting is going to continue to grow, and like you mentioned, like the WNBA is a growing league, and that is very much it's kind of similar to sports betting in that a lot of these new WNBA fans, like I've been a WNBA fan, so like I'm a Seattle Storm fan because of Sue Bird. So I've been a fan for a decade of the WNBA. These Caitlin Clark fans that are joining this year can hop off the bandwagon if they're going to be if they're going to be the way they are, because shout out Caitlin Clark, one of the biggest momentum swings in any sports league in terms of how much interest has grown. Shout out to her for what she's doing. I have nothing against Caitlin Clark. but her fans,
but it's the fans, some of those fans,
her fans are one of the reasons that athletes' mental health is going to be a big talking point this year. So if you're one of those, don't be crazy, don't be a psycho. But it's related to about sports betting growing. It's very similar to how people can be toxic in the sports betting community. People who are in my position, working for other companies, for Parlay Signs, one of the things I value about our team is we don't hire people, we don't hire, human beings that are going to be toxic as, representing the company, representing what Parlay Signs is. So we're not toxic around here. If you're new to sports betting, find the people who are going to be transparent about what they're good at, what they're bad at, and also not be toxic, because finding good people at heart is so underrated in anything in life, but it's underrated in the sports betting community right now, because if you just weed out the people who are clearly assholes, it's correlated to when things are going poorly, how they're going to treat their customers, how they're going to treat, their life, and how they approach sports betting. I don't think this is a popular opinion, but I think how good you are as a person is very much correlated to how how positive you can be, not just as a sports bettor, but as someone who is who as a capper, right? Someone who is recommending sports bets, because it always seems to be the bad people that complain when things don't go well, or don't have the humility, like I said, to adjust their process, stuff like that. So if you're new to sports betting, please find yourself the right people to communicate with. We're doing this for fun, to make some money. There are ways to make money over the long run. There are ways to make a living off sports betting. I'm trying to do that right now. I pay my rent with sports betting. So there are ways to have a great life surrounded with sports and sports betting. And if you are someone who wants to seek help of someone like me, or one of the big cappers, or pick people you want to tail, whose processes you trust, know how they approach betting. Because personally, if I was going to like a physical therapist, which I will be for my shoulder, if I'm going to a physical therapist, I have my guy already. Like, he's helped me with injuries in the past. I have my guy who I know, I trust his process. I know he's always going to do something that's safe for me, and not trying to take shortcuts, right? And not trying to be that guy that's going to try to get me to get surgery, stuff like that, right? So if you're seeking consultation for something medical, that's similar to if you're seeking consultation for tailing sports bets, because you want someone to tail someone with the right intentions, and you want to tail someone whose process you trust, and at the same time, you don't want someone telling you exactly what to do, but you want someone helping you get better, right? So my PT is kind of going to help me avoid this injury in future. So your sports betting consultant should be able to help you get better yourself, so that you don't have to, you don't need the consultation the rest of your life. You just need someone to help you keep improving, and you can learn something too. And together we can beat the books.
I like that. I do. That's great advice. And the future of, at least, sports betting just continues, going to continue to keep growing. And you're right. I think if you're going to get into this business of sports betting, have fun with it. Don't, try to keep the emotions out of it, because you will be disappointed more often than not. And then you're going to lose more than you're going to win. That's just the nature of the nature of it. And but you said don't be toxic. Try not to be toxic, and just enjoy it. Enjoy the fun, and try to win some money on top of that. And it could be a really good community as well. And follow and tail the ones that that you trust. And even if you do lose, don't take it out on the athlete or the person that the sports bettor that's helping you, trying to win money. Like you said, you're not doing this, you're doing this to help people on top of you winning money. Also, you're helping others try to at least have a process of trying to enjoy the sports betting in the sports betting market. So Ahaan, thank you again for doing this for the time. Really appreciate it, man. We got, like I said, it was a long time in the making. So I'm glad we got to do this. We have to try to do this again maybe when the NFL season start, before the NFL season started, and we can really dive in, or maybe WNBA, because I'm a big WNBA fan too, from way back, way back from the Houston Comets days of Cooper, and because Cooper is my favorite women's basketball player of all time, Cynthia Cooper and Swoops and them. So for sure, but we got to do this again. But let everyone know they can follow you and follow your picks and and things like that, how they can get in and get in contact with you as well.
Yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, I'm on Twitter at Ahaan Rungta, but I tweet a lot. If you want to learn about, my processes, the way I approach sports betting, the way I approach fantasy sports, and Courtney, you're a fantasy guy as well. So, yep. That's our main connection is through fantasy football. So if you want to see, how I approach fantasy football throughout the off season, my football work is literally 24/7, 365 days a week, 365 days a year, working on football, improving my models for the next year, currently looking at the rookie class, stuff like that. I have developed models for rookie classes for fantasy football before, going to continue to work on that. So my bets are currently all at the Parlay Science Discord. You can use promo code Ahaan at checkout for a 25% discount. So everybody who's watching, if they want to tell my bets, they can go there. And I am going to have some content announcements coming soon on my Twitter. So perfect timing to say that within the next few days, we're going to have some off-season content that's going to be free, separate from my Parlay Science contributions. Courtney, it was an absolute pleasure being on.
Thank you,
like
man.
I said, long overdue. I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, me too, man. Thanks again. And follow Ahaan, he said on Twitter, Parlay Science, and the models and the that he puts out. Like he said, fantasy football, sports betting, and everything too. So yeah, we have enjoyed this, and thank you again. Thank you everyone that tuned in the comments. And if you have any questions, even afterwards, just hit us up on social media. We're very active on there, so be on the lookout for more content and great, just more great content and everything else. So again, thank you everyone that tuned in. Until next time, see you guys on the next one. Peace.